Hello and Happy New Year to all of you who are joining us as we read through the New Testament in 2026. I am excited to get started on this journey with you, and I'm going to be here every week uploading a video just like this one to help us stay on track as we read through the New Testament. Now, this is actually a pretty simple challenge. It's going to be 5 chapters a week. And so whether you want to do one chapter every weekday, or if you miss one, maybe catch up on Saturday or maybe the next Sunday, or if you want to read them all at once, that is totally up to you. In any case, 5 chapters a week is going to be pretty easy to keep up with. And part of what I want to do with these videos is I want to dive into what we're going to be reading and kind of explain how this interacts with other things, especially since a large part of the New Testament draws from the Old Testament of the Bible. And this is very, very apparent in just the earliest chapters of the book that we're starting with, which is Matthew. Matthew, more than any of the other gospel writers, was very tied in to the Old Testament. His book really presents Jesus as the Savior or the King of the Jewish people, fulfilling all the prophecies of the Jewish prophets. And he'll constantly interrupt the narrative to say, this fulfills this prophecy from this person. It becomes very apparent when we start in Matthew chapter 1, and it starts right off with a genealogy that not only points to Jesus as being an Israelite and a Jew descended through Abraham, but specifically through King David and through all the kings of Judah. And so he's setting up Jesus to be the rightful king of Israel. And then after we get through that genealogy, we talk about the birth of Jesus and the narrative of that. And Matthew's account of Jesus' birth focuses a lot on Joseph and the angel appearing to Joseph and telling him that it's okay to marry Mary and all that. And seeing as it is, just a couple weeks after Christmas, the story is already on our minds. Now, chapter 2 dives into the visit of the wise men or magi. Now, we tend to lump these characters in with Christmas anymore, but traditionally speaking, the visit of the wise men was not celebrated until after the 12 days of Christmas were over, or on January 6th, which is the festival of Epiphany. And so, if you are reading one chapter every weekday, you'll be reading about the wise men on the day that traditionally the church used to celebrate the visit of the wise men. I think that's cool. And the wise men, they bring their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold is a gift that represents Jesus' kingship. There it is again. Frankincense is used by the priests in the temple, so it's also saying that Jesus is the Jewish high priest. And myrrh is a preservative and a perfume, and it was used to wrap bodies after they were buried. So even at his birth, the wise men are pointing to Jesus' sacrifice for us all. Now, Matthew continues, and as we get later into the week, into chapters 3 and 4, we start seeing Jesus preparing for his ministry. He gets baptized by John the Baptist in chapter 3. In chapter 4, he faces off against the devil in the wilderness, and he is tempted in 3 different ways, and all of these harken back to when the Israelites were wandering in the desert for 40 years. They would complain to God because they were hungry or thirsty, yet Jesus, after fasting, does not give in to the temptation of hunger. They would complain, or they would do something and it would put God to the test, and that is something that Jesus says he is not going to do, even though he has plenty of prophecies that say if he were to do this, God would send angels to protect him. But Jesus is like, I will not put God to the test. And then when Satan demands worship, Jesus refuses to worship anyone but the Lord his God. And that was the very first thing when you look back back in the Old Testament that the Israelites failed to do when they worshiped the golden calf. And so we see that Jesus is basically undergoing this sort of echo of what the ancient Israelites did, to come out not as one of them, but as their Savior, the one who can fix all their problems. And in his temptation, I'll just note, he always quotes a passage from the Old Testament to overcome the temptation. Now, towards the end of chapter 4, Jesus actually begins his ministry. He's probably about 30 years old at this point. He calls his first disciples. We get to see him calling out the Peter and Andrew and James and John from the Sea of Galilee, and he starts teaching, and he starts healing people, and he starts performing miracles. And then we're going to finish this week in Matthew chapter 5, which is the first section of the Sermon on the Mount, which starts with a beautiful poetic statement called the Beatitudes, where Jesus blesses certain people, and they're not the type of people that you would usually consider blessed. And he talks about the role of the disciples to be salt and light to the world, to attract people to him. And then he talks about his role, that he came not to abolish the Old Testament law, but to fulfill it. And then he gives examples of what he means by that, and he starts breaking down. You heard that, it's wrong to kill someone, but I say it's wrong even to be unjustly angry at someone. Or you've heard that it's wrong to commit adultery, but I tell you it's wrong to even look at a woman with lust in your heart. And he does this time and time and time again. And so we're seeing here this first week, we're getting an idea of who Jesus is, where he comes from, the Son of God, the Savior, but also the Jewish Messiah and the rightful King of the Jews, coming to fulfill the Old Testament.